Hello, kia ora, thank you for joining us. I'm Philip Duncan. Well, we've got a big low pressure system on the way. It's going to impact Australia and New Zealand for 3 or 4 days. It brings with it severe winds, heavy rain, and some pretty big waves as well. Let's get into it with the animated wind map. It shows low pressure in the dark colours, high pressure in the brighter yellows and whites. So we've got a high pressure belt just to the northwest of New Zealand. That's why it was another calm, frosty morning this morning. In fact, very cold. -6, -8 across Canterbury, -3s and 4s across Waikato, and Auckland saw -2 in a number of areas, down to -3 at Riverhead, just north of the city. Now, in saying that, I've lived in Auckland a while now, a couple of decades, and I remember frost that would completely wipe out the garden. That has not happened for a number of years, and even with the cold mornings, it still hasn't been overly frosty as far north as Auckland. And I mention Auckland because it's a northern region, closer to the equator than Southland is. So that's why how far north the frosts go in New Zealand is always interesting, because the further north it goes, the more impact that cold is having further south in the lower North Island and the South Island. So it's a good place to measure it. Anyway, let's get into the rain, because that is the next main feature. There is a lot of rain coming. The shading over here, it's kind of hard to read when it all goes into the pale blues, but we've put on the magnifying glass and taken a look. This area here, and also near Westport, has the potential for over 300 millimetres of rain over 4 days starting today. So that is a lot of rain. Most of the rain events on the west coast are down here in Fiordland, the rainforest, but this is the other way around. It's at the northern end of the island, and so, well, at least the middle to northern side of it. So very heavy rain in the populated places like Hokitika, Greymouth, Westport, and the surrounds. So we are just letting you know there could be some slips and flooding as that rain system moves through. That's the 4-day map. Here is the 24-hour rain map on Friday. The areas in the very bright show 150 millimetres of rain in 24 hours. So that is a lot of rain for the Nelson Ranges down to Westport, and these ranges down more sort of the bigger mountains towards Hokitika and the glaciers, they do get a lot of rain from time to time, but further to the north, I think this is one to keep an eye on. There'll be spillover into Nelson and into the ranges between Nelson and Marlborough, so it's certainly one to keep an eye on. Taranaki, you've also got some heavy rain on the way in the mountainous areas there. You're getting up over 100 millimetres in that 24-hour period. So let's get into the forecast. Here is Thursday, and look at the size of this system. It is really big. It's driving in dangerous waves and swells all along the southern coastline of Australia. You've got severe gales just south of Perth, and you've got windy nor'westers building up, which are pushing into New Zealand as well. It isn't that often that you see a low-centred south of Australia that has a big windy sort of nor'wester across Australia itself, and then also pushes into the New Zealand area. So it is a very large low. But on Thursday, the rain starts to build up a little bit more on the west coast. Nothing too major just yet, but those heavy falls are starting in the north, and it's still fairly settled in the North Island, but the windier nor'westers means everyone's temperatures are about to go up after what has been a very cold start to the week. On Friday, it is the South Island's turn to be the sort of focus of this system. So you've got strong northwesterlies, severe gale in the top half of the island, heavy rain on the west coast, moving anywhere from the glaciers up to about Westport and the Nelson Ranges. So heavy falls, slowly moving northwards. Not so windy for the southern half of the South Island. Windy also over here in Australia for Adelaide in particular as that system starts to move in. By Saturday, it's now Melbourne's turn to get the big, strong, windy southerly coming through for them, or a southwesterly. But on the New Zealand side, it's the North Island's turn for severe weather. That comes in the form of heavy rain over in Taranaki and the western side. By the way, Nelson, Marlborough, you get that heavy rain as well, pushing into Saturday. Severe gales. Now, we're not yet ready to lock in a wind speed, but 130 kilometres an hour in the hilltops has been floated as a number, and I think it could even go higher than that. We could be seeing 150k gusts up in the mountains and the ranges. So for those farms that are right up against them, very, very windy weather coming through for you on Saturday. Rainfall totals in the north and the east, they're not really that great. Let's get into Sunday. So the low itself is now centered here, and it's actually starting to shrink and sort of the severe side of it starting to weaken, but you've still got more of that rain still coming in as a nor'wester in the same places. Taranaki, Nelson Ranges, Westport. So those same places getting repetitive rain, whereas Auckland, Northland, Bay of Plenty and all down the eastern side, much drier. Just a few showers. The rainfall accumulation is much lower in those areas. And then we get into Monday and the low shrinks even more, but it's still got a few pockets of severe weather. Still windy in many places. Gales are possible. The severe gale part of it may be starting to weaken a little bit, but could be severe gale around Canterbury, and this is a cold southeasterly. Could be some very heavy snow along the Southern Alps, along the eastern side, Mount Hutt, for example, in that sort of area. So one to keep an eye on. It's not locked in. Monday's still a long way off, but you can get the idea. We've got this big system coming through, and it's not till the start of next week that it finally starts to show some signs of easing, but it probably isn't really till Tuesday that it moves away properly. If you need your local rainfall accumulation or wind gusts, go to weatherwatch.co.nz or ruralweather.co.nz. In fact, ruralweather.co.nz has got the most weather data on it than any website in New Zealand and the two government ones combined. So please do check it out. That is all from me. We'll see you later on with our next update.